Hello everyone, how are you doing today? In today's video, we are going to talk about this very controversial topic, which is to have or not to have children. But before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Eliana. I am an English teacher. I teach English online. And if you want to learn more about my work, you can check the links in the description of this video. All right, so let's get started. In this video, I'm going to share with you everything I've pondered on to make the decision about having or not having children. I don't know if you know, but I'm 34 years old and my husband is turning 45 this month. So we are not a very young couple, and as time went by, this decision of having or not having children started to become more and more urgent, right? Because the later we women have children, the more risky it is. So I pondered on all the pros and cons of having children, and I've reached a conclusion that I'm going to share here in this video with you. But it doesn't mean that that's the best decision for everybody, okay? That's the best decision for us in our current situation. Your situation might be different, and you need to ponder on the pros and cons in your own life, all right? So the first thing I considered when I was deciding what we should do was finances, our finances. If I decided to have a child right now, I wouldn't have the means to provide my child with everything I would like to offer them. I wouldn't be able to pay healthcare for them. Well, actually, maybe here in Japan, yes, I could, but we are thinking about going back to Brazil, and probably in Brazil, we wouldn't have the means, the financial means to pay for healthcare for our child. Actually, we wouldn't have money to pay for healthcare even for us, my husband and I. In Brazil, we still depend on public healthcare. So that would make me feel really worried because we know how the public healthcare system is in Brazil. They do a very good job, but we know that there are too many people to be taken care of. And if we need help in an urgent situation, we might not get the help as soon as we need. So that really worries me. And also, we wouldn't be able to pay for private education for our child. And both here in Japan and in Brazil, education is better when it's private. So that would also be complicated. Another factor related to our finances is that I'd like to provide my child with the best food possible, and that means organic food, right? But even for my husband and I cannot afford to buy organic food all the time, and I would feel bad if I had to feed my child with food that is not organic, that has pesticides on it. So yeah, that would be really, really sad. And there's another thing related to finances, but not really very connected to providing the best for the child, but actually it's more related to my husband and I. We care very much about our future, and we are trying to save as much money as possible for our future, for the time when we cannot work anymore and we are going to depend on our savings. If we had a child right now, and I'm talking about just one child, let alone 2, 3, 4 more children, But if we had a child right now, we wouldn't be able to save as much money as we would like to, and that might prevent us from saving the amount of money that we are planning to save so that we can have a happy and comfortable retirement. The second thing that we were discussing a lot was our freedom. When a baby is born, you are not as free anymore, right? You have to dedicate most of your time to taking care of that child. As the child grows, you're gonna get more and more time for yourself, but you're still going to need to dedicate a good portion of that time to your child, right? If you have a child, you don't just need to cook for them, bathe them, and tuck them in bed. No, you need to do much more than that. You need to talk to your child. You need to play with your child. Take them on tours, take them to parks, do different things with them. A child needs attention and care from their parents, and that demands a lot of time. And that means that you will not have as much time for yourself. Right now, my husband and I are very happy with the life that we are leading. We have lots of freedom to choose how we want to spend our time. If we had a child right now, things would be completely different. For example, today is a Sunday and I'm here recording this video. After recording this video, I will probably have lunch. Maybe I'm going to eat out with my husband, and maybe after lunch we might feel like taking a nap. Now imagine if we had a child here with us. Maybe I wouldn't be able to be recording this video. Maybe I would have to be cooking lunch for that child. Maybe after lunch I wouldn't be able to take a nap because my child would be awake and waiting for me to play with him or her. So we definitely wouldn't have all the freedom that we have to spend our time the way we prefer. And that also means not being able to go out as much as we like. Here in Japan, we took up a new hobby, which is going hiking. Especially in the warm weather, I love to go hiking. And now spring is starting. The temperature is rising, so I'm already planning on going on our next hike. And if we had a child right now, if we had a baby, we wouldn't be able to do that. And that would really frustrate me, you know. I know that we could take turns. Maybe if I wanted to go hiking, my husband could stay with the child or vice versa, but we wouldn't have the time for ourselves. My husband and I, we would always have to be separated to do those things that we love so much and we love doing together so much. Also, my husband and I have this idea of traveling once a year or twice a year and living in a different place for 1 month every time we travel, to really experience life in different places. It might be in different places here in Japan or in Brazil or in other countries. And having a child with us would definitely make things harder. I'm self-employed. I make my own hours. My husband too. Although he has a part-time job right now, he has a lot of flexibility to decide how he wants to spend his time. And if we had a child, especially when this child is in school, we need to respect the calendar of the school, and we probably wouldn't be able to do that. So yeah, freedom is something very, very important for us. Freedom of time, freedom of location, and definitely having a child would impact our freedom somehow. Another factor that has been on my mind for quite a long time is health. Something that always comes to my mind when I think about having a child is this child going to be healthy or not? And it surprises me that when I talk about this with my friends, they tell me that they didn't really think about that. That was not a concern for them. But for me, it's a big concern, really big. And I wonder if that thought is always coming to my mind for a reason. So I started thinking about the genetics of my family and my husband's, and I've realized that my family has had some problems with genetics. Me, in my case, from both my mother's side and my father's side. So in my mother's side, there are a number of people that have been born with autism on different levels. A very low level, a very high level. And on my father's side, many members of the family had cancer and autoimmune disease, such as Crohn's disease, which is a genetic disease. So from my mother's side, I could pass down to my child autism. And from my father's side, I could pass down to my child Crohn's disease or cancer. And on my husband's side, there is also autism in his family. And once I talked to a psychologist about that. She was not really a doctor, very knowledgeable about genetics, but she told me that autism is also a genetic disease. And if I have that in my family and my husband has that in his family, the chances of us having a child with autism are much higher than an average couple that doesn't have any autism in their families. So that's a big concern for us as well, especially because my husband has had experience working with autistic children, and that's not easy. It's very, very hard for the parents, and I don't know if I would have the mental strength to take care of a child with that kind of problem. And also, I worry about the future. What if I have a child with autism and this child depends on me forever until the point I'm a very elderly woman and I can barely take care of myself? What might happen to that child? And what if I die? What if I die before that child? What might happen to that child? That's a big concern that I have. And I wouldn't like to live a life always worrying about that, always worrying about the future of my child. So that was another big concern that I had to take into account when I made my decision. I mean, when we made our decision. The next factor that I took into consideration was the current situation of our planet. And I'll divide that into two parts. Okay, so the first one is the environmental situation of our planet. As you've probably seen on the news, on social media, the planet is going through a very hard time because of the way we are leading our lives here. We are depleting our planet of its natural resources, and we are also producing too much CO2, and we are poisoning our land. So little by little, we are actually destroying this planet. And we are seeing the consequences of that already. We are seeing the climate change happening right now. In the past, when I was a child, we used to talk about climate change at school, but always thinking about it in the future. Maybe like 40 years from now, 50 years from now. But to our surprise, climate change came much faster and became a reality just within 10 years from that time. And that's really messing up with the regular way that our world is structured. So there's more rain in one place and there's a drought in another place. And we are seeing the ice melt in the North Pole. And this is going to bring more and more problems to the lives of all the living beings here in this planet, including human beings. There's a YouTuber that I follow, and his channel is called Gooby and Dooby. That guy was a neurosurgeon in America, and he gave up working as a neurosurgeon and started making videos for YouTube. He's a very well-read person, very knowledgeable, and in one of his videos, he said that it doesn't matter how much we try to make things better in this world. It doesn't matter if we try to use more renewable energy, if we try to do the processes of food production differently. The impact that those measures will have on the planet will not be enough to recover the natural system of this planet. Because the real thing that is wreaking havoc on this planet is the number of people here. The world is overpopulated, and the world cannot provide for us all the resources that we need to live here on this planet. It doesn't matter how minimalist we try to be, it will never be enough. I've seen an article that says that every year we are using twice as much of the resources that the planet can provide us with. So the math is not mathing. For every one thing that the planet produces, we use two. And as you can imagine, if we continue that for many years, sooner or later, those resources will end completely, and life will not be possible on this planet anymore. Not for us humans, not for anybody else. So how can we help the planet to recover? We have to have fewer children. We have to stop making this planet an overpopulated place. And the only way of doing that is deciding not to have children, right? So I'm not saying that everybody should stop having children, no. But I do believe that if a person doesn't really have that passion about being a mom or being a dad, and they are having doubts about it, will I enjoy it or not? Maybe that's a sign that they should decide not to have children. And those people who are very passionate about it, who can only think about their future with children, then those people can decide to have children and continue populating this planet with more human beings. I think things would be more balanced this way. I have a book club with other teachers, and one of the members of this club is almost 60 years old. And I talked to her about this concern that I have about us depleting the resources of this planet. And she said that she agrees with me. She is childless too. And she said that it was very surprising to her to see that the number of people on this planet doubled during her lifetime. This is insane. And according to that doctor from the YouTube channel, we are having more and more people on this planet because of the technologies that we are using to produce more and more food. So we are producing more food. But is this food good for our health? Is this food good for our planet? Actually, the way that we are producing this food is not very good. We are using a lot of pesticides. We have huge crops of just one kind of food, which is not good for the environment. The environment needs balance. The environment needs different kinds of food being produced together so that the crops are very healthy and we don't need to use pesticides or chemical fertilizers. So the way we produce food is not really healthy. It's causing health problems to us people and to the environment. So yes, making food like that is allowing us to have more and more people on this planet. More people can be fed, but more people are leading lives with lots of health problems. So maybe we should go back to producing food the way we used to do that in the past. There's a movement now spreading around the world called agroforestry, which is to plant different things together, things that can live together and grow together. And when that happens, one kind of plant produces some stuff that is used by the other plant to be nourished or to protect itself from harm from insects or the weather. It's a very well balanced system in which all those crops, all those plants can grow healthily. And if we adopt this new way of growing food around the world, we will probably need more time, and we will not be able to grow food in a very crazy giant scale as we are doing right now. And therefore, we will be able to feed fewer people. And maybe that will be okay. Not to mention all the other problems, the way that we are using the water, the way that we are cutting forests to produce meat, the way we are destroying the environment with pollutants. The problem with the environment is big and complex, but it seems that it all boils down to two things. There are too many people on this planet, and the way we are doing things is not sustainable. So, if we start having fewer people on this planet and we learn to do things more sustainably, things will get better, and we can hope for a planet that will have its climate balanced again, and we will be able to live without worrying about not having food, not having water, and having to deal with lots of problems related to the environment. And on the other side, there's also the problem of how we are living, politically speaking, in this planet. I think that after the Second World War, this is the most violent time of our history, with so many conflicts around the world and domestic conflicts too. Not to mention all the violence against women, Black people, and LGBT people. It's a really scary moment to be alive. You know, me as a woman, I don't feel safe in Brazil, for example, if I want to go running or go for a walk, or if I have to return home alone on a deserted street. Things are really, really weird. There's also violence against children, child abuse, kidnapping. You know, if you start to consume the news about all the problems that we are facing nowadays in relation to the way we are living now in our society, you're gonna feel really, really worried about the future. And bringing a child to this planet to live and have to deal with all these potential dangers around them doesn't really seem like a good idea, you know? So those are the reasons why I think it's not a very sensible idea to have a child right now. And I believe most people will agree with me when it comes to those topics. But there are other things that are more controversial. One of the things I hear when I say that I'm not thinking about having a child is that if I don't have a child, I will not experience real love. Because the purest and strongest love that a person can feel is the love that they have for their child. And I partly agree with that, but I don't believe that I need to experience that kind of love to be happy in my life. The kind of love that I have for my husband, the kind of love that I have for my mom and my brother, my family, my dogs, my friends, is enough for me already. I don't need to feel that kind of love that everybody says that hurts. It's so deep, it's so strong that it hurts, to be happy. Actually, I'm very happy already with all the love that I get and I give in all of my different relationships. Another thing that people tell me is that if I don't have a child, I will not have the experience of helping a small person to grow up and become a great person and enjoy the small moments of happiness in that process. And I agree with that. I love watching children playing in the park. I love to see them playing with their parents. Yesterday, I went to a city nearby and I saw a child playing with a water fountain, and their parents were recording this child having so much fun. It was a very beautiful scene to watch. And I agree with that. If I decide not to have children, I will not have that. I will not be watching my child growing up and becoming this person that I admire so much. But it doesn't mean that I cannot experience that from watching other children growing up. I have this idea of in the future, when I have more time to dedicate myself to other activities, of doing some volunteer work with children from orphanages. And I believe that that will bring me a lot of joy and will provide me with those experiences of seeing children growing up and learning and seeing the impact that I have on the lives of those children. And I also have a lot of friends who have children, and I'm seeing them growing up. It's been a very nice experience. So I think I'm having enough of that feeling of warmth in my heart when I see children around me growing up and exploring the world. There's another thing that people say that is a pro of having children, which is to have a more solid family. People seem to think that a marriage is not a real marriage if you don't have children, that there's no point in being married if you don't have children. And with that, I have to disagree. I believe that a marriage is an institution that was created for two people to live together and love and support each other throughout their lives. So I don't really think that having a child would make my marriage more meaningful. I think it's already meaningful enough. And the last advantage of having children, according to most people, is that in the future, when you become an elderly person, you're gonna have someone to count on if you need help. And well, that concern is also a concern of mine, because when I become an elderly person, I want to have someone to count on for sure. But I don't think that having a child is a guarantee that I will have someone watching out for me. And I also believe that it's not fair with our children to put on their backs the responsibility of taking care of us when we get older. Actually, I think that this system that we have created of parents having children to support them in the house and when they are older, and then those children having children to do the same for them, and this going on generation after generation, is not really a good system. Because just imagine, and you've probably seen that in your life, people when they get old and they need support, they depend 100% on their children. And their children have also their own problems to solve, right? They need to work, they need to take care of their own children, they need to take care of their health, of themselves, and they also have their parents to take care of. I think that's not really fair with our children to put such a huge burden on them. And I think we should do things differently, for sure. So my idea is to save enough money for my future, so that when I am an older person, if I decide to have a child, they will not have to take care of me. I will be able to pay for my own care. I will be able to pay for a caregiver if I need one. I'll be able to pay for my stay in a nursing home if I decide that that's the best thing for me. And I will just need someone if my mental health is not very good by the time I get very old. I might need someone to manage my life. That's real. But I don't think that the only person I can count on is a child. It could be a younger friend. It could be the child of a younger friend. It could be an older friend that is healthier than I am. And this, if I need the help, because I might just die without needing any support. Who knows? And a lot of people say, and I've seen that with my own eyes, that having a child is no guarantee for support when you're older, because who knows how your child is going to behave in the future? Who knows if they will care about you in the future? I've seen that happen in my own family with my grandmother. I saw my grandmother struggling, and only one of her 5 children was actually there for her for whatever she needed. So yeah, having children is no guarantee of support in the future. So by now, you probably know already that the decision I've made is not to have children. Actually, the decision that my husband and I made. But that doesn't mean that we might not change our mind in the future. Who knows? But for now, that's our decision, based on all those things I've mentioned in this video. And now I'd like to hear from you here in the comments. I think one of the best things about YouTube is the chance that we have of interacting with different people who are interested in the same topics. So please let me know here in the comments your opinions. Let me know if you have children or not. If you have, why did you decide to have children? If not, why did you decide not to have children? Let me know about all your thoughts here in the comments. I'm really looking forward to reading your comments, and I'm sure that your thoughts and the experiences that you share with us here in the comments will help other people too, and it will just make this video more and more valuable for everybody. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you had a good time practicing your listening skills here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!